Gein, also known as the Butcher of Plainfield, is perhaps one of the most infamous serial killers in American history. His crimes were so heinous and macabre that they inspired some of the most iconic horror films of all time. However, beyond the gore and violence lies a deeper horror, the terror of a man who was so damaged by his upbringing that he lost touch with reality and became a monster. Gein's early life was marked by neglect and abuse. He was born on August 27, 1906, in La Crosse County, Wisconsin, to an alcoholic father and a domineering mother, Augusta. Augusta was a deeply religious woman who believed that sex was sinful and that women were instruments of the devil. She was also a hoarder who never allowed anyone to enter her home except for Ed. She isolated him from the rest of the world, and he became her sole companion and confidant. Augusta's strict religious upbringing had a profound impact on Gein's psyche. He was taught to fear and repress his sexual desires, and his mother's insistence on cleanliness in order led him to develop an obsessive-compulsive disorder. Gein was also subjected to physical and emotional abuse by his father, who was an alcoholic and a failure in Augusta's eyes. His father's death in 1940 only served to deepen his mother's hold on him. When Augusta died in 1945, Gein was devastated. He lost the only person who had ever shown him any affection. In his grief, he turned to grave robbing to satisfy his morbid curiosity about death. He would sneak into local cemeteries at night and exhume the bodies of middle-aged women who resembled his mother. He would take their bodies back to his farmhouse, where he would dissect them and create macabre items out of their skin and bones. Gein's crimes came to light in November 1957 when a local hardware store owner, Bernice Worden, went missing. The police suspected Gein of her disappearance and searched his farmhouse. What they found inside was beyond anything they could have imagined. The police discovered a house of horrors. They found Worden's decapitated body hanging upside down in Gein's shed. They also found several other skulls and bones, a pair of lips on a drawstring, a belt made of female nipples, a lampshade made of human skin, and a chair upholstered with human flesh. Gein had even fashioned a woman's suit made entirely out of the skin of his victims. The investigation also uncovered Gein's disturbing relationship with his mother. Gein had preserved her room in his house as a shrine and would often wear her clothes and apply makeup to his face. He had become so delusional that he believed he could bring his mother back to life by creating a woman's suit out of the skin of his victims. Gein was found guilty of the murder of Bernice Worden and was sent to the Mendota State Hospital for the criminally insane. He was later transferred to the Central State Hospital, where he spent the rest of his life. Gein's crimes shocked the nation and inspired a wave of horror films that would shape the genre for decades to come. However, his legacy goes beyond his gruesome crimes. Gein's story is a cautionary tale about the power of abuse and neglect to warp a person's mind and soul. It's a reminder that we must pay attention to the signs of abuse and neglect in our own lives and in the lives of those around us. And it's a warning that we must do everything in our power to prevent another Ed Gein from ever emerging again. Gein's life also highlights the importance of mental health awareness, and the legacy of Ed Gein's crimes extends far beyond the realm of horror films and pop culture. Gein's case sparked widespread public interest in the study of criminal psychology and forensic science, leading to significant advancements in these fields. His case also prompted a re-examination of the way in which the criminal justice system deals with individuals who are mentally ill or have suffered severe trauma. Gein's upbringing is often cited as a significant factor in his descent into madness. Growing up in a household dominated by a strict and abusive mother, Ed Gein never had the opportunity to develop healthy coping mechanisms for dealing with stress or emotional turmoil. Instead, he was taught to repress his emotions and view women as evil and sinful creatures. It is believed that this distorted worldview contributed significantly to his eventual crimes. Ed Gein's case also shed light on the issue of hoarding, a condition characterized by excessive collecting of items that often have little or no value. Augusta Gein was a notorious hoarder, and her compulsive behavior may have contributed to her son's eventual descent into madness. Researchers have since studied the links between hoarding and mental illness, discovering that hoarding is often a symptom of underlying psychological disorders. Furthermore, the case of Ed Gein raised questions about the ethical implications of using criminal cases as fodder for entertainment. Many critics argue that the media coverage and subsequent Hollywood adaptations of Gein's crimes sensationalized his actions and trivialized the suffering of his victims. Others maintain that these adaptations have served a valuable purpose in raising public awareness about the realities of violence and trauma. Despite the controversy surrounding his case, Ed Gein remains one of the most notorious and enigmatic figures in American criminal history. His crimes continue to fascinate and horrify people to this day, and his name has become synonymous with evil and depravity. But beyond the sensationalized headlines and Hollywood adaptations, Ed Gein's legacy serves as a reminder of the devastating consequences of abuse, neglect, and mental illness. It is a cautionary tale that calls upon us to pay closer attention to the warning signs of these issues and to do everything in our power to prevent another tragedy like the one that unfolded in Plainfield, Wisconsin in the 1950s. In conclusion, the case of Ed Gein is a sobering reminder of the darkest corners of the human mind and the devastating impact of abuse, neglect, and mental illness. His story has inspired countless horror films and pop culture references, but his legacy extends far beyond the realm of entertainment. It has prompted critical discussions about criminal psychology, forensic science, and the ethical implications of using crime for entertainment. Ultimately, the case of Ed Gein serves as a warning about the dangers of allowing trauma and mental illness to fester unchecked, and a call to action to prevent similar tragedies from occurring in the future. The case of Ed Gein has had a lasting impact on the field of criminal psychology and forensic science. Gein's crimes were so heinous and abnormal that they prompted researchers to re-examine the way in which they understood the workings of the human mind. This case provided a unique opportunity for experts in the field to study the psychology of a serial killer and to gain insight into the motivations behind his crimes. In particular, Gein's case shed light on the phenomenon of necrophilia, or sexual attraction to corpses. While it was known to exist prior to Gein's crimes, his case provided one of the most extreme and clear-cut examples of this behavior. The study of necrophilia has since become a significant area of research within the field of criminal psychology, and experts have used this knowledge to help identify and apprehend other serial killers who exhibit similar behaviors. Gein's case also highlighted the importance of understanding the role of childhood trauma in the development of psychopathy. Researchers have since found that traumatic experiences in childhood can have a lasting impact on the brain, altering the way in which it processes emotions and social interactions. Gein's upbringing in a household dominated by an abusive mother may have contributed significantly to the development of his psychopathy and his eventual descent into madness. Furthermore, the case of Ed Gein has raised important questions about the way in which the criminal justice system deals with individuals who suffer from severe mental illness. Many experts argue that the criminal justice system is ill-equipped to handle the complex needs of individuals with mental health issues, and that more needs to be done to provide these individuals with appropriate treatment and support. Gein's case has served as a cautionary tale about the dangers of ignoring the mental health needs of individuals who may be at risk of committing violent crimes. Finally, the case of Ed Gein has sparked critical discussions about the ethics of using crime for entertainment. Many critics argue that the media coverage and Hollywood adaptations of Gein's crimes have trivialized the suffering of his victims and turned him into a pop culture icon. They argue that this kind of sensationalism can have negative consequences, such as desensitizing people to violence and trauma. On the other hand, supporters of using crime for entertainment argue that these adaptations can serve a valuable purpose in raising public awareness about the realities of violence and trauma. They argue that these adaptations can help people understand the nature of these crimes and the devastating impact they have on victims and their families. In conclusion, the case of Ed Gein has had a lasting impact on our understanding of criminal psychology, forensic science, and the ethical implications of using crime for entertainment. While his crimes were undoubtedly horrific, the legacy of his case has helped to advance our knowledge of the human mind and has prompted critical discussions about the way in which we respond to mental illness and trauma. As we continue to grapple with these complex issues, we must remain vigilant in our efforts to prevent similar tragedies from occurring in the future. Thanks for tuning into Sinister Crime Lab. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more intriguing true crime cases, don't forget to hit that like button, share with your friends, and subscribe to our channel for more spine-chilling content.